I think that looking through it years back, this was probably the hardest piece Tzitzis is probably the hardest one that I saw. I don't know why. And let's look over here. I think, so here we are on page Kuf Mem Zayin. Read across the top. It's a long piece. It says, Tam lamaha arbitzizius srichen lahakif adam. Why do they have to surround a person, the arbitzizius? In other words, going over to the nook, he said yesterday that it actually represents the makif, the nook. So he said, Va'ata nevara inyan the arbitzizius. Now let's explain what's playing over here with the arbitzizius. Ech makifim es a nukva, how in fact that they cover over the nukva, niska the ale. So he said, the inyan huki elu ha'arbitzizius. Heim yotzim in the tzaddik elyon, they come from the upper tzaddik. Who's the upper tzaddik? Hanikra tzaddik v'yisod. So it means they're coming from the yisod. What yisod? Not clear yet. Kamosha amar hakosv, like the pasuk says, is a pasuk b'knafa aretz zmiro shmano, from the wings of the earth I heard songs. Tzvi the tzaddik. I'm not sure what the last phrase means. I try to look it up. I ran out of time. It's in Isaiah, I know. Vayinyan hu kamosha min hadas. Do you have the place?
Yep.
Okay. So vayinyan hu kamosha min hadasa elyon shuhu b'bechidas aloshin. Okay, so now when he says the dasa elyon, just really a question of what dasi means over here, but let's go on. So he says from that das, Yotze b'manda b'chidas hahevel shuhu or makif al malvish kanoida. So from das comes out or makif, and he goes on and he says kain. So therefore, so since mina yisod tachton, from the lower yisod, yotze hevel makif malvish. So he says that's the nature of the yisod, that a hevel comes out of the yisod. Behain sod arbitzizios, and this is the secret of the four tzitzis. So we know that coming out of into das from the Yisod comes the 5 gevuros for the 5 chasadim. And he said, v'chamesh gevuros hem chamesh osios mansapach. Okay, so we understand, so we need to locate where they're coming from. Obviously from Yisod, there's an upper Yisod and a lower Yisod. So he says this makif is a mansapach. Shehem min, that is the gevura part of it. Shehem min habina, they come from mina, bina. Ki or ha-makif de zun hu shem AKYA. Now I think that's probably an important idea for me. So I've always been confused about what AKYA is. So he says that, and you see this in the Rishash, that he shows the makif as an AKYA. So he says or ha-makif de zun shem AKYA. Shehi ima, which is ima ilah, which refers to ima ilah. Memena ha-keser, and from her comes the keser, ha-makif. So he's really talking about over there the second time that you have the penetration of the nai into zeranpin, and this also includes the tani that comes in, and the teferis becomes the keser. Which represents them. So we have arba tzitzios and chamesh gevuros. Or hamakif. So now we understand that tzitzis represent a makif. Gevor yudatiki ein ha'isha koreses bris. I guess she means marries. I'm not sure what he means by koreses bris. Ella the misha asa kli. So her bris actually atones place if she has a kli. Now I'm not sure what that meant. Isha caresses bris, why he uses that language. Obir biuroku. Now if you want, I'll explain it. He says hanukva de zecha bedecha b'choya decha b'techida b'rak havaya echad pashut ba'arba osil bilvad. So the nukva was really made out of a yud ke vav ke, period. But then after her relationship, Azah enters into her. So now he uses his phrase, he says he brings a ruach into her. that deposits it Boa Bailo, that her husband, he brings into a ruach that comes into her. We've seen this in the Eitz Chaim. B'olov ne'emar, and in regards to this, it said v'yihi b'tzeis nafsha ki mesa, then her soul left because she died. I'm not sure again, Kenoida, I'm not sure how that goes again. Let's just read it one more time, just to see how they go together. Yehiv ba b'chinas haku rucha d'shavik b'baylo, Knizka b'sabbat b'shpatin, b'olov ne'emar, in regards to the v'yihi b'tzeis nafsha, when she died, ki mesa, Kenoida. Okay, that needs, I don't see how it goes together, but we'll see. So actually, what does the ruach look like? So she's a yud ke vav ke. That's all she is. What she gets in this v'zecha rucha is composed of kanizka de milui heyin ha'ola b'gematria ben. So let me read again. V'zecha rucha hu b'bechinas milui havaya kanizka de milui heyin. So the ruach that's put into her is the milui of the havaya of heyin. Vihine he osius heim b'milui azeh. So there's 5 letters in this milui. So it would be yud vav daled, KK, vav vav, KK, and these are the last parts of it. That makes 5. And this milui is the kindness, or the kindnesses that are brought into her. That's my translation at the moment. So this, that you give her in the fervor, he gives her. Okay, back again. So he gives her the milui. He fills her up. But she has read originally just a yud ke vav ke keneskar. Va'amdam im kol zecha b'noidahu ki chanekeva he besod daled. So actually the nook, she herself, is the letter daled, achre havav, which comes from the first letter yud vav daled. Those 2 letters. Shehi hanukva ba'achre d'chura, which represents that daled represents the nukva, which is on the back of Zeranpin. V'nimsakihi nermezes ba'oz daled, so therefore her reference to her is that she's called a daled. Shehepsel oz vav, that's the daled that's right next to the letter vav, shehem milui yud vav daled, that's the media of that. So he says v'nimsa ki gam ba yesh chamesh osios, so now she has 5 letters. The ki gam hi nechlalas ba'os daled, because she's also part of the os daled that kenizkar. He nechlalas ba'os daled. I'm not sure what he meant by that. So these are the 5 gevuros that come into her. Okay. Now it doesn't say that he gave her the chasadim. It says in the end, it says he gave her gevuros. So that's how she becomes bia, fit for bia. But also it says that she doesn't kores bris. That was the word that he used. Back to kuf mem daled, and we're on number mem daled down at the bottom. So it says rav heich arbat tzitzios. How is it? Let me read again. Rav heich arbat tzitzios makifim as a nukva dezaz. So we're not going to say how it is that they surround her. So these, again, the light of this makif that comes from the tzitzios of the talus, they come out of the yisod of ima, of bina. The yisod we know is called tzaddik, and with the tzaddik being in a different dimension than Zeranpen and the Nook, so therefore it's called the tzaddik up above the 2 of them. So we understand that this is the yisod of ima, as we understand it's part of the nai that comes in to Zeranpen. That's the yisod part. Now, okay. So he said das elyon hu bechinas haloshen, because the upper das, I guess he means the das of bina, which is where the source of the hevel is. But so the dibur bechinas hevel, which is actually comes from thought, from talking, and shazera hevel hu or makif. So now it's coming out of the mouth, and we understand that it's outside. So therefore, it's a makif. She'omer bebechutz, stands outside, malbish and besoviv as parts of kanoida. That's the nature of the makif. It's outside and it's misaviv or misoviv. So here we go again. So he said, "Kamo kain mini yisod nikra tachton be'erik loshen shebedash shehia el yoina." So it's called tachton in relationship to the dash, which is considered to be up above it, of course. Yotze hevel kamosha yotze rabidalosha v'chapes. So there's also from the yisod. Also, you have the same situation. Now it's I'm just trying to think. Is that from das it comes out of the mouth. Once it's outside of the mouth, it's outside. Whereas the relationship, I'm just thinking, the relationship between das and yisod is on the inside. But he's saying here, he said, "Kamo sheyotze min haloshen v'chapeh." The same thing happens with the yisod. Shazeha hevel hu or hamaki v'she'omed b'chutz malvish hasapartzif. That's what it is. Or hamaki for yotzer min yisod heim arba tzitzios. So this maki comes out of the yisod. Is represented by the four tzitzios, yotzes min atalis. He doesn't say representative. He says they are. He said, "Shechazam mekabel shefim abba ve'ima." Zab refused a shefa from abba ve'ima. Kolam b'chamesh choshanim v'chamesh geburos. B'chamesh gevuros shemekabel lechazara b'hem rumozim b'chamesh osius mansipach. So the five gevuros that come into Zar called mansipach. They're each represented by one of those letters. Meila chamesh gevuros shehem chamesh osius mansipach. Hazacha mekablam min bina kanoida. He gets it from bina. So the mansipach comes into Zer Anpin from bina. Shahare ha'or ha'makiv shel zun hu shem AKYA. So that gives a definition to what an AKYA is. What's the difference between AKYA and sag? Is a question that I've always had. Here he says that the AKYA, as we see in the Rishash, represents the makif. So now going on, he said, "Shem AKYA hu be'ima yilor." Because we understood that the keser of zav is of the lower third of the teferis of ima, comes down and on top of his head. Or hamakif. So he says the makif is the keser itself is an or hamakif. So first he said that we understand from the otros that the teferis is part of makes the keser. But he says over here also that the keser is a makif. And b'shum kacha arba otzios amarazan the chamesh gevuros. So therefore, the four letters which are referenced in the five gevuros, heba bechinas or hamakif. So I guess he means AKYA. The name AKYA. I'm not sure what he meant by the four versus the five. So let me explain this. He says, shal malchus the nikbar nukva dezah. The hinder of Shazera b'malchus b'dechidas atzilusa, that's malchus as it first came out and appeared. Lo hoya belki im shem b'vaya echad pashut ba'arba osios belvad b'li hamilui. So therefore, it's just four little simple letters. But as she's built, the zivug, and now so we're at number Samachay on the bottom column. And now she's an adult. She's fit to be us. Bebia Rishona, the first time that she has bia, Sheba Alecha Hazah when Zah enters into her. Hazah maniach ruach. He leaves a ruach behind. Shazu haruach kaviyachol gedugmas. It's like shemaniach habal beishtach bebia rishona. So he says kaviyachol It's like Sheminicha Babara Beishta Babia Rishona, Memeniki Yonekis as Koyach Kiyosa, and from this Ruach, she's able to feed and to supply for herself Yonekis as Koyach Kiyusa, her life force. She starts to grow. V'chein as Koyach Kiyusa B'Shechah Havlados on the Ladim Achamikan, and not only that for that, but also she gets the force of life that is going to come to her children. V'alchu Ruchan Emer, in regards to this Ruach, it says like this. Let's try to understand this Ruach. V'haruach shenoisim b'bayla b'biyah rishonim. Zecha b'bechina b'milui the shem b'bayah the milui hayin. So this is actually the letters that are not part of the Yud Kei Vav Kei if you spread it into a milui hayin. Shezecha b'shem or the b'gematri ben. Over here, Havaya the ben shehi Yud Kei Vav Kei. So this Havaya the ben, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yesh arba osias b'pashut. So it's really take away the four letters of the pasuk. V'chamesh osias b'milui, and so it's a combination of a milui and a pashut. So the milui, he says, v'chamesh osias a milui heim kad l'holon. Osias vav dalad shehem milui the os yud, a letter yud. V'os hey, which is the milui the o hey. V'os vav, which is the milui the os vav. V'os hey shehem milui os hey achronu kazeh. So now we're getting down into what does it look like, what's going into her, and she's being filled into a ben. So now he says the 5 letters of the milui are considered to be 5 chasadim. Because that's what happens, they're given to her in the first yichud. And that's the way we think about it, is that the milui of the Chavai Dehayin. So now she's getting the milui, and that's a 5. Nukva the Hiyosa Dala, which is impoverished and empty, Vahania and Velis, Lamba Gramaklum, she's really empty. He removes the episode Os Dala de Milu Yudvav Dala, that she's really, in another way to look at her, as she's a Dala like a Dala. Vahadala de Nuk Omedes Akre Os Vav Ofen, so it's behind the Vav which means Zeranpen. Os Dala the Rebeza de Nuk for Omedes. So he says, so somehow this fits together. I'm not sure exactly how. So we understand that. So let's say she's a Daled, she's right behind the Vav. Should be Milui Yud Vav Daled, which is the Milui of the first letter, the Chavaya. But then Shakashach Mitzarfi Ma'abi Osis the Peshuta Shel Shem Havaya Ima Os Dalad de Milu Yudvav Dalad. Now, so let's take the Pashat and let's match it up just with the Dalad de Milu Yudvav Dalad. Az Gam Banuk Atzma the Vada below Hadachura Yesh Chamesh Osius, and now she has 5 letters. And I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but that's what he says. And all of this is because the Os Dalad is really refers to the Nuk. Ki Lushan Dalit, so let's look at Dalit, the Dalit itself. Who remezes al Kiyos and Nuk Dalit v'chalish shalis lama gramaklum. She's really totally empty. For the Chemit Starfim as Os Dalad. La'arba os is a pasha to chavaya, which means that's, in other words, it's Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then a Dalet after that. So Chabamesh os, and now you have these 4 or 5 letters. Halalu shehem arba osius avaya peshuta im os Dalet demilu yud hem ramazin the Chamesh Gevurah v'chadim shakim al nukva. So what did he say? He said the milui itself is 5 chasadim. And the milui is 5 chasadim, and if you take the dalid of the first milui, which really represents the nuk, and you add it onto the yud kei vav kei, that represents the basic nature, I guess, of the nuk herself, which is gevura. Are we out of time?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Yeshakaya.